Hello, my name's Adam Wilworth, and I'm here to explain shaft voltage testing on motors operated by a VFD. I'm going to show how the voltage is tested, and then we're going to look at the shaft grounding ring to see how to protect the motor bearings from destructive shaft voltages. So in this setup, we have a motor operated by the VFD, and you can see the shaft voltage tester and the shaft voltage probe, which is touching the motor shaft. That allows us to measure if there's any voltage on the shaft surface. In addition, you see that this motor has a shaft grounding ring installed, but it's installed with nylon plastic screws, so it's not currently connected to ground. We would actually have to connect this probe to ground in order to protect the motor from bearing damage. So when you look at the oscilloscope, you can see continuous bearing discharges in the waveform, and that's that slow increase with very sharp negative going discharge that you see. Now I'm going to freeze the screen so that you can see what's going on a little bit closer. And you can see that voltage increasing slowly and a very sharp discharge. That's a pit being created in the bearing race, which eventually can cause a fluting damage and failure of the motor. Now what we want to do is we want to connect the shaft to ground. So I'm going to take the ground wire from the shaft grounding ring and I'm going to connect it to ground. And you can see when I do that, all of the voltage that was on the shaft goes away. So right now, the motor's bearings are protected by the shaft grounding ring, which has conductive microfibers which bleed any voltages away from the bearings to ground. So you can see when I take the shaft grounding ring back out of service, the voltage immediately comes back and you get bearing discharges. I connect it back to ground and the bearings are protected again. That's the fundamental thing that you have to do to protect bearings from electrical discharge machining damage from capacitive induced voltage on a motor. So what you've seen here today is a motor operated by a VFD being tested for shaft voltages. And when you connect the shaft grounding ring, those voltages are diverted away from the bearings and directly to ground, thereby protecting the motor bearings from damage and failure. Thank you very much for your attention.